Hello and welcome to the first of what will be three slideshows covering imperialism. These slideshows will summarize everything that the state of Ohio and the Ohio Department of Education want you to be aware of in order to be successful in the course. By no means are they a substitute for what we do in class, but they will introduce and review, depending on how you look at it, the chief concepts that you need to be aware of. Imperialism is a very easy concept to understand, basically because it involves bullying. This is a time period of about 114 years, as you can see on the screen, that European powers mainly, but also the United States and Japan, were involved in conquering and controlling the more underdeveloped parts of the world, mainly Asia, Africa, and Latin America. These European powers, the United States and Japan, had industrialized. They practiced what we would now call very intense nationalist tendencies. And as we'll see, their goal was to be the number one most powerful, most richest country in the world. Our goal, or your goal, for this particular slideshow is to make sure that you can describe the political, economic, and social roots of imperial expansion. And in a nutshell, if you are able to do that, then you will be successful with this lesson and can move on to the next one. Imperialism is basically, as I stated before, the seizure of a country by a more stronger nation. In this case, again, the industrialized countries of Europe, Japan, and the United States in the 19th and 20th centuries. And their goal was to find more raw materials, markets for goods that they were producing in their factories, and to dominate the political, social, and economic life of the world. If you recall, in the last two chapters, we have studied nationalism and the Industrial Revolution, and I told you that these two concepts going forward will be very important in understanding the rest of the concepts in the course. As you can see here, the continent of Africa is represented by this blanket, and it is being pulled in all different directions by the conquering powers: Spain, Belgium, Great Britain, Germany, and they're all scrambling in an attempt to get what they want out of the continent. Who practiced imperialism? The list is much longer than this, but these are the nations that you want to be aware of. Great Britain is the most famous. They were the most powerful of the group, as we'll see. France, of course, is the second most. You can see where the United States falls on this list. And if you notice, minus Japan, all the other countries on the list are from Europe. Something that you should be aware of going forward: Japan, Germany, and Italy will be late, or come late to the game in terms of imperialist tendencies, and by that point most of the world had been conquered by Great Britain and Spain and France, and so there was very little for them to take, and that could be seen as we'll see later, as causes of both the First and Second World Wars. And ironically, at least in World War II, the main opponents of the Allies, Great Britain, France, United States, is Japan, Germany, and Italy. And one could say that one of the reasons for that is Japan, Germany, and Italy coming late to the game, late to the imperialist game, were not only jealous of the other great powers, but wanted to be like them so much that, of course, that led to conflict. The motivations for imperialism are listed here. I did a quick job here for you guys to break them up into three items: economic, which of course would revolve around money and the need for markets and resources; social, which is a cultural piece related directly to social Darwinism; and political, which will be the first one we'll go over here in a second, which it rotates mainly around nationalism, the desire to be the best country in the world. The political motivators for imperialism are probably best illustrated in the board game Risk. If you've played the board game Risk before, you probably know what I'm talking about. The goal of that game is world domination. And in the end, we kick your butt and we steal your stuff, is basically the basic premise of the game. The desire of these European powers to be the most powerful and provide security for themselves and feed their insatiable desire for their own prestige is one of those chief reasons why these powers went out and conquered weaker nations. This visual aid might help you with this one a little bit. You can see Uncle Sam here sticking American flags into various parts of the world. Uncle Sam is even bigger than the rest of the world, showing you the attitude that the United States had and the cartoonist had towards the United States superiority and imperialism. And you can see the areas where he is sticking the flags, and one wonders where he is going to stick the next one, along with the large group of them located under his arm. The second motivator for imperialism was economic. As we know, money is a big motivator for nations, for people. These economic motivations were tied to the production and consumption of consumer goods produced in the factories during the Industrial Revolution. Countries needed more raw materials, they needed markets, they needed cheap labor, they needed natural resources, and they could find these things in abundance in underdeveloped regions of the world, Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America, very easily. And so, being that they possessed the superior weaponry, it was very easy for them to go to these places over the course of 114 years and conquer. As you can see in the image depicted here, you have a British soldier with a gun and a sword, and he is going up against 4 Zulu warriors. The Zulus were a tribe in southern Africa. One wonders who will win, being that he has a gun and they only have spears and shields made from animal hides. One thinks that if he still has 6 shots in his pistol here, he would be able to take all these guys out very easily. Having superior technology meant it was very easy to bully and conquer places that were weaker than you. Here's just a very good visual aid for the economic motivator for imperialism. This is called gold diggers, appropriately, and you can see where all the gold went and where it came from. The implication here is Europe and the United States got rich off imperialism, whereas the countries that were imperialized got little or nothing. Social motivators for imperialism. The idea that if you're not like me, then you are inferior, is an idea, a social Darwinist idea rather, that has existed for a very, very long time. Europeans believed that it was their role, known as the white man's burden, to go out and civilize people who they deemed inferior, to, as this ad illustrates, brighten the dark corners of the earth. And you can see that this gentleman here is preaching or teaching this native the ways of Europeans. Also the implication here of shipment of a large amount of raw materials back to the home country, and the fact that he's a naval officer, or maybe army officer, I don't know which, implies the idea that yes, we will take this by force if necessary. we will take what we need. Here's a cartoon also from the time period. This one is from the early 1900s. You can see Uncle Sam once again standing over and dominating these indigenous peoples of Cuba, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and the Philippines. Meanwhile, the quote-unquote very good and obedient American students are in the back studying and doing everything that they need to do, whereas these indigenous peoples are not. And in the dominant position that this teacher is in shows us that the United States felt extremely negative feelings towards the indigenous peoples of foreign lands. We have to go, we have to civilize them, we have to change them, we have to make them like us in order to make it easy for us to be successful and to dominate. And if they don't do as we say, then of course the implication here is with this very, very big stick that the Uncle Sam has in his hand, we will use force if need be. And you can see, of course, these natives are extremely scared. The implication here is Uncle Sam has used the stick to enforce his rules before. Interestingly enough, by the doorway you can see someone that is, or at least the artist here has depicted a Native American quietly reading a book in the corner. But if you look closely, his eyes are looking over the book at the teacher, wondering what will happen next. One last thing before we move on, I want to mention that Japan was one of those imperialist powers that went out and conquered other places too. It wasn't just focused on Europe and North America. Japan in the late 1800s, starting around the mid 1860s, began to see that Great Britain, the United States, France, and other countries were spreading, were conquering other places, and they themselves did not want to fall under foreign control. So what they did is if we can't beat them, we'll join them. Using that idea, they began to industrialize and militarize and build up their military to go out and conquer other places. And you can see here they by 1914 had expanded their territory into mainland Asia for the same reasons that the Europeans did. Those search for raw materials, the search for markets to sell goods, and so forth. So, can you describe the economic, social, and political roots of imperial expansion? Can you do that verbally? Can you do that on paper? Can you type it? If you can do one of those three things and do it successfully, then you have successfully completed this lesson. If you cannot do so, then you need to go back through the slideshow and review.